Counselor is a 2013 film, Ridley Scott directing, screenplay by Cormac McCarthy, which is actually kind of important here. Um, it's a gritty crime drama. That's the basic. Yeah, it's to lay it out quite simply. The counselor is a lawyer. You never get another name for him. He's always referred to just as the counselor, played by Michael Fassbender. And the counselor is a rather sleazy, decidedly disreputable lawyer. His clients are involved in running illicit narcotics, illegal narcotics, and he's a lawyer for criminals. He's a lawyer with close ties to criminals, specifically cartels, Mexican drug cartels. And he is in serious financial difficulties. McCarthy's script does a good job of showing you this, not telling you this. He's desperate. He's quite in love, they're truly in love with Penelope Cruz. And at the beginning of the film, he flies to Amsterdam. I can't remember if it's on business, but he purchases a diamond there. And as you watch it, you can just see the dollar bills adding up. You can just imagine how much all of this is costing. So it's not at all surprising it's clear that he's gotten himself, it's clear that he's in serious financial difficulties. As a result, he turns to crime, predictably enough. Transitioning from being a counselor to criminals to becoming one of the criminals. He, along with Brad Pitt, playing a character called Rayner, and another individual that he's involved with, and who's involved with drug running for the cartels. There's a pretty basic scheme hatched to sell a large amount of drugs for a rather stunning amount of money. If I remember, it was $20 million. And all right, so obviously the plan is to get out of financial difficulties, to get out of the hole he's dug for himself by reaping a huge cash payment, a huge, can't think of the word. He stands to profit mightily from this illegal transaction and will be able to get himself out of debt and out of trouble. Everything goes great, there are no problems at all, everyone lives happily ever after. No, of course, you've seen this story before, you're familiar with the story. Things do not go as planned, there are consequences, and you watch and you see those consequences play out. That is the basic. I'll also add Cameron Diaz is in it. It's an impressive cast, or it's certainly names that you will know. Certainly celebrities involved in the cast. That's the basic non-spoilers summation of the film. Honestly. Well, let me say this. I doubt that you will like it. I liked it. I liked it a lot. Audiences weren't very positive. I'm not at all surprised. Let me quickly add, though, if you're here because Cormac McCarthy wrote the screenplay, you'll probably like this film. And if you're here because you've read Cormac McCarthy and are interested in seeing the film, yeah, you'll probably like the film. That's when the screenplay by McCarthy is one of the reasons that I watched it. Also, it's worth your time to check out the screenplay by itself. The screenplay reads like a very fast McCarthy novel, very, very stripped down, even for McCarthy. There's a real economy of means. It's very short. You can read it very quickly, and it's a pretty good screenplay. Also, I've heard someone wrote this. I forget who, but it's pretty clear McCarthy has no idea how to write a Hollywood screenplay, and the person writing that meant that as a compliment. I would say the same, and also mean it as a compliment. This is not a script that I would expect a big studio, a large studio to go for. Let me also add, I heard someone else say, and again I'm embarrassed to say I can't remember who, but someone else said the entire cast. You get the feeling from the entire cast that they're getting away with something, and they really are. It really is not the film is really not what you expect. The basic premise is the basic plot. The basic premise is what you expect. Yes, but given the individuals who are in it, given the money that's involved in this production, it's highly unusual. And I don't want to say too much because I'll say more in a moment as I move into spoilers. Keeping it spoiler free. Let me say that it will frustrate I suspect it will frustrate, perhaps that's the wrong word, it will frustrate your expectations. A film like this, there are certain expectations for how the action will unfold, how the protagonist, in this case, the lawyer, Michael Fassbender, will deal with the consequences of his actions. And I think in most films, let me put it this way: the film is very cold. There's very much the sense of an evil or of violent, oppressive forces that are almost entirely indifferent to human life, to human beings. It's almost that the evil is so overwhelming, or the adversary is so enormous, so cold, so calculating, that there's nothing to confront. There's nothing really there's almost nothing for the protagonist to be in opposition to. This is very much, I think this is very much McCarthy. It's a facing squarely how this situation, obviously it's a work of fiction, this is not really how it would play out in real life, but the just absolute cold, calculating indifference of the evil is very much a feature of McCarthy. And you do see that in the film. We're talking $20 million. I mean, someone has lost, when things go wrong, someone has lost $20 million. Someone's lost $20 million of illegal drugs. There is no way, there's no world in which that doesn't result in overwhelming consequences. There's a machinery just kicks in. It very much is like, in that way, it feels very much like No Country for Old Men, which McCarthy wrote the novel, No Country for Old Men. It's adopted by the Coen brothers. But in No Country for Old Men, when Llewellyn finds the money in the desert and takes it, and an entire machinery just kicks in. Things have been set into motion which cannot and will not be stopped. That very much is present in this film as well. I would say even more so than in No Country for Old Men. So that, thus far, no serious spoilers, I think. From this point on, going weapons free. So if you want to avoid spoilers, go watch this again, whatever. But from here on out, here be dragons, going to do spoilers. So in a way we go. I don't necessarily want to say too much more about this in the non-spoiler arena. The film plays out very much like, it very much feels like a McCarthy novel. The film is Michael Fassbender, the counselor, having one-on-one conversations with a series of people, and for the most part, and the action largely plays out in that way. Michael, as I think you won't be surprised, as I more or less have already said, the counselor, the drug deal goes badly. The counselor must face consequences of his actions, and he's warned early on by the Brad Pitt character, this is not going to go well. This can be disastrous. This can go incredibly wrong. You probably should stop now, right? You probably should drop out now. It's sage advice. There's also it's rather fascinating because the Brad Pitt character, Reiner, as he's giving this advice, isn't taking his own advice. Reiner claims, I can walk away at any time. I can simply leave this behind. And you know this hubris, this pride is going to be punished. He's not going to walk away scot-free. Also, let me say that there's a rather neat McCarthy device here, a bolito, which is kind of a mechanical garrote. It's an entirely merciless, entirely mechanical way of killing someone. It's a garrote that you place around someone's neck, and then you activate the device, and the device constricts, cuts off the individual's head. This is mentioned earlier in the film, so this is Chekhov's bolito. This is the thing that's mentioned earlier in the film that you're going to see at the end of the film. To say one more, maybe just one more thing. The reason I really liked the film, or I thought one of the best things about the film, was McCarthy often, he can drop into these very kind of philosophical moments, the characters will go in these very kind of philosophical discussions. And sometimes that's criticized as being hokey, and I can see that. But it's really necessary. It's necessary in Old Country, in No Country for Old Men, which I'll say something about in a separate video. It's necessary here. When things have gone wrong, not surprisingly, the counselor tries to make amends. He tries to contact the powers that be, in this case drug cartels, in this case criminals, and tell them, look, it wasn't me. I didn't do this. I didn't cheat you. I'm not responsible. I haven't concocted some scheme to rip you off. And he's telling the truth, right? He is in earnest. And he's earnest enough that he's willing to sacrifice himself for his fiancée, for Penelope Cruz. And it seems genuine. He seems to be genuinely willing to do that, to sacrifice himself for her. But he ends up on there's a telephone conversation with El Jefe, right, the boss, someone presumably very high up in the cartel, and it's a very philosophical discussion. El Jefe tells him, and I won't get too much into the details of it, but rather, El Jefe tells him the world, this is a different world that you live in now. Your actions, what has taken place in the past, has created that the world you inhabit. It's created this world that you inhabit now. You think that you are in this world of the past, where there's something that could be done, where you could make amends, where you could say something that would change things. That world is gone. That world no longer exists. And it's a powerful way, and I think a good way of framing, or a good way of expressing what genuinely has happened. The counselor can't really grasp this. The counselor can't really understand this. And of course not. It's beyond him. The world he inhabits truly has changed. An entire machinery, an entire diabolical, extensive machinery that can reach everywhere has now kicked into gear. The gears are moving, it's ineluctable, it will not be stopped. And that is, I think, probably, I have trouble imagining an individual being able to grasp that. You, frankly, as the audience, can't grasp that. You find yourself hoping against hope that the counselor will be able to do something, that he will be able to make amends, that he will be able to affect the situation in some way. At the same time, you, the audience, knowing that is entirely naive. That is not going to happen. So I think it's an impressive use of a philosophical moment, a philosophical reflection of the film. It's necessary, I think, to express the gravity of the situation. That's what I liked about the film. I could go into it more. Perhaps I will in a later video. Anyway, that's where it is now. I would give it, I think a 7 out of 10. It definitely is I would say, one of the really fun things about it, as I said, someone else's observation, the entire cast really seems to be acting like they're getting away with something They really are. That's pretty delightful. If you like McCarthy, I think you'll like this. And if you like McCarthy, definitely check out the screenplay. Yeah.